Hello again, everyone. I am Christopher Brannon with the Coeur d'Alene Public Library and the Cooperative Information Network.
And I'm George Williams. I am the Next Search Catalog Coordinator at Northeast Kansas Library System.
And today we're going to be talking about merging in a couple different areas. We're going to talk about merging bibliographic records, and we're going to be talking about merging patrons. But first, we're going to talk about our sponsor, koha-US.
This video is sponsored by koha-US, your place to look for all things Koha. Whether you're just starting out with Koha or you've been with Koha for a while, koha-US is a great place to find resources, learn new tips and techniques, or connect with other users and libraries. Koha-US provides excellent information, both original and curated from around the internet, including the terrific Every Other Day training videos. You will also find several special interest groups to connect with, as well as our general monthly meeting where we gather to talk about the latest Koha news. You should also check out the koha-US annual conference, held at various locations around the US. This is a great opportunity to meet with other users face to face, and build your Koha network, as well as new friendships. And of course, don't forget about the great presentations. Koha-US is also actively involved in the Koha community by contributing towards new developments. If you are interested in contributing towards Koha-US funded developments, join the Koha-US membership. Your annual membership builds the funds to sponsor new developments in the community, and as a member, you also help shape Koha-US with your membership votes, and receive a discount on the annual conference. You can also contribute towards developments through a direct donation, or by purchasing some great koha-US merchandise through our Threadless account. Visit us at koha-us.org to find out more.
All right, George, take it away.
So this is the kind of video we do when our plan for a video goes completely out the window because something gets screwed up. So this is actually something that's pretty easy. You know, I get requests. We're a large system. We have 51 libraries, 54 libraries, I think, in the system. And every now and then somebody will import a bibliographic record, and at the same time that somebody else imports a bibliographic record. And so we end up with two records for the same title. And so I've disabled people's ability to merge things on their own, because the problem we had when merging was new is that every copy, every title, like everything called Treasure Island, was getting merged into one record. Large print, movies, audiobooks, books, paperbacks, different editions that were abridged, editions that were unabridged. So people were going crazy with merging things. And so we took that away from everybody. And instead what happens is when they want to merge something, they send me an email with a couple of, with the URLs of the two things that they think ought to be merged, and I go ahead and merge them. So if it's justified, if merging them is justified. So just the other day, I got a request from one of our libraries. They said that there's this edition in the system, and there's this edition in the system. They're both the same. They both appear to be the same. They've got the same ISBN. This record looks a little bit better than this record. This one is probably a pre-pub. So my process for merging them is I actually have a list, and I add them to the list. And there are other ways to merge things, but this is the process that I have. And then I open.
There are no bad processes if it works for you.
Yep. I open the list that I've put them both on, and I select all. The one owned by Paola is the one that I think is the better book, the better record. And so I check the check boxes there, and I click on merge selected. And I tell it that this is the one I want to keep, because that's the biblio number for the one that's owned by Paola. You can change the framework here if you want to do that, but then I click on next, and it's going to show me the complete record for the source. This is the reference, and this is the destination record. And so this is the one that all of this stuff should be exactly the same. And then if I click on this one, this is the one that I didn't like that record.
But you
But
can pick and choose between
yeah, if I
records.
just, yeah, if I wanted to add any of this information here, like if I don't know what the 050 is. It looks like some kind of maybe Library of Congress call number. And 082 is the Dewey Decimal number. But maybe I decide that this is, I don't like this 050, or I want to add both of them. If I click on that, then that one will move over here. And if I click on it over here, it'll uncheck it. So anything I want to take off this record, I can just check the, like if I wanted to drop this 655, I could click on that and it'll take it off of there. And if there's anything over here I want to add, if I check on the checkbox, it'll add it to the new record. And honestly, in this case, though, I don't see anything in this brief record that I want to keep on the final record. And so when I get all that done, I just click on merge, and they're done.
Wow, that looks like a pretty foolproof way to look through things and proof everything and pick and choose to merge those. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's a really good way of doing it. It shows you every field in the MARC record, and it gives you the opportunity to merge them. And so that now both of the items that were on that are now on the new record. And if I go back and try and reload this one that I didn't like, the one that we got rid of, it just says that biblio no longer exists. But if I reload the second one, there we go.
I'm not a cataloger, but it makes it look easy. But I do see the concern about giving people that option, and they're not paying attention to the actual items, whether or not they're the same editions and actually copies of books. And so that's rather important if you're going to merge fields.
Yes.
The other thing that I recall back in the day, I don't know if this is, I assume that this has been fixed since then. In fact, I think I remember that, but early on in bibliographic merging, there were issues about holds not transferring, or holds behaving better, transferring between merged records.
Yeah, I believe that was an issue when the merge button was new, but since I've been here at Nichols, it's never been a problem. And the job I had before I was here at Nichols, it wasn't my responsibility. So I have no idea what kinds of chaos there was.
I do know that there were also, there may have been at one time issues between, when you're merging records and those records are tied to acquisitions in some way. There were some issues.
That wouldn't surprise me. But again, I've never had a problem with that. Currently, we don't use the acquisitions module here, other than the suggestions portion of the acquisitions module. And I'd like to say I've never made a mistake merging records, but oh yeah, I have. Some pretty big ones, actually. That's one of the nice things about having a test server that doesn't have that's slightly out of sync with the production system, is when I have made a mistake, I'd have been able to go to the test system, pull the record I wanted, and fix it. But one of the number one ways, because I use the list to do merges, one of the number one ways I have made mistakes is after I've finished a merge, I have to remember to go to the list again and remove all of the items, all of the titles from the list, because that's the way that I've made mistakes in the past, is I've added records to that without realizing that I'm merging something that I merged once before.
It's completely unrelated.
Yeah, usually totally unrelated. So, but that's, there are other ways to get to the merge. You could, if you do a cataloging search, you can click on the checkboxes and find the merge button that way. That's one of the ways that we have hidden, because it's easy to hide that and take away that essentially takes away the merge permission from everybody who might find it accidentally I use jQuery to disable that button in cataloging. And I'm not sure, but I think merging might be a patron permission now on the patron's permission setup. So
yeah, certainly something that you want to be very mindful of who gets permission to do that.
yeah,
You know, how good of a cataloger are they, and, you know, mindful of details. But, you know, also, you know, keep in mind all the nuances of bibliographic records and what they're tied to, because yes, they are tied to holds. They are tied to acquisitions. If you're using acquisitions, they're tied to lists
yeah,
in some ways. So, you know, anywhere a bibliographic record is tied to, you want to make sure that when you're merging those records, you're not inadvertently affecting something else.
yeah. That actually happens here a bit. Is I'll be asked to merge records, and both of them are on lists, usually on new book lists. And so in that case, what I usually do is if I notice that they're on like the base or new list, I try to let them know that I merged it to a different record. You know, it just happens, but lists is a common thing.
If I remember correctly, if you look at a record now, or it will tell you if it's part of a list, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, you know, that's important to note. So,
You know, and the reason that we don't let everybody have that, you know, currently only I have the ability to merge things is because the reason we have duplicates a lot of the time is because a lot of our catalogers are also the director at the library they're at, and they're also the janitor, and they're also the circulation desk person, and they're also the person that mows the yard at the library. We have a lot of really small libraries, and cataloging is rarely somebody's only job, except for our 5 or 6 very biggest libraries. Almost everybody that does cataloging is doing multiple jobs at the library. And so they might not be as good at it or as well trained or as experienced as people at some of our other libraries.
right. And when you have a consortium where different libraries have different catalogers, they all have different cataloging styles. And so there can be some inconsistencies in between them, you know, between them and between your staff members in small libraries that have those many hats that don't touch cataloging all that often. So yeah, I guess, yeah, it does make sense to have, maybe have in a large environment like that, have somebody be the key point for certain tasks.
Yep, and here that's me.
Yeah. All right.
So the other thing we've got going on today, though, is, we talked about merging bibliographic records. You can also merge patrons, and they have similar issues. So Frosty is my test patron, and there's a whole family of these people. So let's merge Gilbert and Daryl Frosty.
Okay.
So
obviously the same person.
Yeah, they're close enough. That's usually the number one reason we merge people, is because somebody at one library, somebody's gone to Richmond and created a library card there. And then a year later, they go to use the library in Ottawa, which is just down the road. And somebody at one of the two libraries, the person from Richmond doesn't realize that they can use their Richmond library card in Ottawa. Yep. And they go to the desk and they say, I need a library. I don't have a library card at this library. And Ottawa uses a different library card. And so the person at Ottawa might not check, or might forget that step to check and see if the patron already has a card. And
although I will say, I've noticed, I don't know if this is a rather new feature, I've noticed that when you put in a new card, it will look and see, and if it sees some similarities with another record, it will point it out and say, is this the same person?
What I find is that it has to be a really, really, really close match. If the first name and the last name, if somebody makes a typo, or if they put one of them has a middle name and the other one has a middle initial, even if they're the same person, the matching has to be really, really, really tight for Koha to warn you.
Yeah.
So I've checked the box for Daryl Frosty and for Gilbert Frosty, and then up here you'll notice there's merge selected patrons at the top of the page. It won't show up, it won't be enabled until you've actually clicked on 2 patrons. But you check those check boxes and click on merge, and it's going to give you some of the basic information, you know, the name, date of birth, category and library and expiration date. And you have to select one of those to be the patron that you're going to keep.
Right.
So maybe Gilbert Frosty came in and he said, well, you know, my middle name is Daryl, you know, and I'm the same person. They have the same birthday. So you got to ask the patron, you know, which one of these 2 accounts do you want to keep? Which card number do you want to keep? And so let's say we choose this one. So what it's going to do is it's going to take all of the information from Daryl that isn't on Gilbert's and push those 2 together. So if Daryl Frosty, if that account has fines, it'll pull those into the Gilbert Frosty account. If it has anything that isn't filled out in Gilbert's account, it's going to transfer that data to those same fields in Daryl's account. It'll transfer those to Gilbert's account in those same fields. But Gilbert is the one that'll be kept. So it's going to lose the card number. It's going to lose the name. It'll lose the date of birth if it's different. It's going to lose the patron category, and it's going to lose the library. Everything that there's already a field filled out in Gilbert's account, it's going to lose those from Daryl's account. So, but all you got to do then is click merge, and it's going to tell you that it's moving 12 account lines, 2 club enrollments, 1 mark as last borrower of an item, 4 previous checkouts, 1 hold filled transfer, and 16 statistics. And then you can click on that to go to the patron record, and they should all be there.
Nice.
Now, there were some problems in the past, I know, with things like patron attributes that couldn't be repeated.
Right. Early on, when this feature came out, we had to disable it because we were running into issues where we tried to merge patrons, and we had certain attributes that should not be repeated. And when you merged the records, it was duplicating those. And we had jQuery written around it, and it was causing some weird anomalies. And I had to go into the patron record, and there were some workaround ways to get rid of those extra fields. But if I wasn't around, the patron record had issues, and staff couldn't move any further with it. And so, yeah, that was a problem. And so later on, they addressed that, but then they kind of crippled the merge feature because they were saying, well, if it has fields that you can't duplicate, we're just not going to let you merge them.
Right.
And that was frustrating. And so they finally got to this point where it's going to have you select the record where it's going to keep that stuff, and that process, it is going to keep the stuff, those non-repeatable fields from whatever record you choose to make the priority.
Right.
And so that, it's come a long way, but I'm hoping that down the road they can make this work a little bit more like merging bibliographic records, and where they show you all the fields.
Right. These are the fields on patron 1, and these are the fields on patron 2, which ones, pick and choose. That'd be really convenient.
Yeah. That's ideal in any merging situation, being able to see what's going to go on and be able to cherry pick the more accurate information from each. All the stuff behind the scenes outside of the record, it handles well. It's doing what it's supposed to do, but within the records, that's a little goofy still and needs improvement.
Cool.
But yeah, Koha's come a long way. Before these tools were available, we had to put in requests with our vendors, and if you didn't have a vendor, you had to do it on your own on the back end.
Right.
not always a fun process. I know that there are some bugs in the work, and I'll have a bug number pop up here talking about it, but there is a bug in the process that we're having discussions on right now, where I think it's taking Koha in the right direction. Right now, making modifications, deletions are still kind of tricky, and whether it's deletions or modifications, some of those things you can't undo. If you have to undo them, then you have to go to your vendor and do things on the back end, and hopefully they have a way to do that. And even then, it can be complicated in undoing some of that stuff. This bug that is being discussed, they're discussing doing some things differently. Right now, when you do a deletion in Koha, it will take that information and move it over to a deleted table.
Right.
In some cases, there are some deleted tables where that information is migrated over, but we lose a lot of connections between that information and data we want to retain.
Yeah, deleted items and deleted borrowers and deleted biblios, and
yeah, and
there are a lot of tables that have a corresponding deleted table.
Yeah,
in Koha.
And some of the issues around that is, number one, it keeps Koha bloated, and you have to do some maintenance now again on those tables, because those are easy to forget, and that those tables can build and build and build. When you migrate over to those tables, again, like I said, you lose a lot of links that were important. And
right.
Even though you're maintaining that information in those deleted tables, it doesn't make undeleting an easy possibility, where now they're looking at the possibility of, okay, we don't remove that stuff from the tables. We have maybe a column that is listed as a deletion, and
right,
if it
just kind of a flag that
there,
says deleted or not deleted. Yeah.
If it has a date in there, maybe then that field, that particular record does not show in anything, but it does not remove any links, and so it doesn't break a bunch of stuff when that's deleted. And so that creates a much better possibility for, like, if we are deleting patrons for some reason, we're not held back as much because it's not breaking things. And the patron can be marked as deleted, but we still have those connections that we need, so that we can see this item is lost. We can still go back to who was responsible for it last, and it could still be linked in the in records the way we need them to be linked. And we're not breaking things along the way by moving this data around or removing it. And of course, we still have the issue of when this stuff gets cleaned up. I think that Koha is good. It has some good safety measures that we still keep in place, where we don't remove this stuff if it's still linked in some way. That's crucial, with accounts and finances and that sort of thing. But this allows us the possibility that if we decided, oh, I accidentally deleted this patron, I didn't want to delete it, we could do a search for a deleted patron and undo that, and all it's doing is removing that flag. They're back in the system.
Yeah.
And same thing with records. That would be unbelievable and really be a tremendous step forward in Koha data.
Yeah, I agree. Right now, it would also make report writing a lot easier. Because I have a lot of reports that want to go and look for, they have to essentially query two tables, items and deleted items. If I want to find how a fine relates to an item, I've got to know if the item's been deleted or if it's still active. And we have, there is a cron that you can have your support company run, or you can run, that will delete the things on the deleted biblios and deleted items and a lot of those other tables after a certain amount of time. But, you know, it would simplify a lot of things if they just stay there. We have all of our things. So once something moves to the deleted items or the deleted biblios table, it stays there for 13 months. And then after 13 months, it gets deleted. But there's a lot of history that gets deleted too. But it would simplify a lot of things if instead of items and items table and a deleted items table, if there was just one table and the items table indicated whether something was, you know, active or not active. And then after a certain amount of time being inactive, then they could be deleted. It would just be one less table, you know, and there are a lot of tables in Koha that start with the word deleted. So
Yeah.
that would simplify a lot of things. So.
And I do encourage those of you watching, if you go to the bug and check it out, comment on it. I think one of the biggest hurdles for this particular project would be, you know, funding for it, because it is going to be a major shift in Koha, in my opinion, because it's a database restructure, and you know, the question is, for me, the biggest hurdle would be, okay, well, we can add this column and this flag. You know, we have to point everything to that that has to do with deleting and merging at that point. But we also have the issue about the data that's already in the deleted tables. What happens to that? Can we put that back in amongst all the other data? Because, you know, those links have already been broken. And so the question is how to make that transition from one to the other. That's going to be a big challenge. But I see this as, you know, we've got that hurdle that the programmers have got, the developers have. But the other hurdle is funding. I see that one's going to probably take a lot of time and work. And so I would encourage those libraries that are interested in the concept of this, you know, particularly to retain those links and make it easy, make it so that we can work towards a Koha where we could undelete things down the line. If that's something that sounds really appealing to you, maybe we gather together and contribute towards this in some way. I'm hoping that some vendors would put this in some sort of crowdfunding kind of situation where we can all contribute towards it and work towards getting this done, because I think this is going to be a huge asset to Koha down the line.
The biggest issue I see for me is, I need a roll aids now, just because I'm thinking how many reports I would have to rewrite.
But it would be worth it, man. It would be worth it.
It'd be worth it to go back and rewrite all those reports.
Think how much simpler they're going to be, though, and think how much simpler it would be to write those reports down the road. You know, you talk about, and
think of how much I learning how to write those reports, that it could query two tables at once.
Yep, exactly. But I've had complications in having to do that too. I mean, you talked about some of the reports you've done. When we have bibliographic records or even item records that have been deleted, we're trying to do statistics on things that have been added and withdrawn, and that's complicated when you have to go between those two tables, because you have to consider the things that were added in a certain time, and they might have been deleted at that point too, or within that window. And so you have to go back and search both of those. And man, it is not fun having to do that. No,
that's I've got a lot of reports that they have to look at both of those, because if a monthly report, if something's added on January 1st and then it's deleted before January 31st, it's hard to count that in an end of the month statistical report. And this would simplify a lot of that.
Yeah. So take a look at that report, or take a look at that bug, and please participate in it. At least, comment in it. If you like the direction of that bug, please, add a +1, but add your comments, your thoughts to that. It's in discussion, and I would like to see it move forward from discussion to development. If you can contribute funds, maybe comment in there, that you'd like to contribute towards it. But I really think that would be a fantastic development for Koha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good discussion, for an impromptu topic. So thank you, George, for sharing your knowledge on merging.
All right. We'll see you next time, everybody.
All right.